So there's a budget bill trying to get passed. The Dow Jones takes a hit. Justin Trudeau acts like an idiot. Nancy Pelosi speaks 8 hours on the floor in favor of DACA and illegal immigration. And President Trump wants himself a parade. My name is Israel, and this is my take for news of the week. So, starting off on the Senate bill. The Senate bill is a cheap attempt to try to keep the government from doing a government shutdown. What we understand is that there is going to be an increase in the debt ceiling that's basically going to be doubling the 1.5 trillion that we have already accumulated and added onto the deficit because of the Republican tax reform. This is not something that I'm in favor of. If the government shutdown needs to happen, then let the government shutdown happen. I understand that it's something that should be avoided at all costs, but that does not mean that there needs to be an increase on the deficit without putting any kind of provisions in it that's going to stop any kind of future spending. What I see here is that the economy is doing better. The economy is doing well. We haven't seen as how much it's going to be actually increasing as far as what we're going to be making in this federal income tax season because of the Republican tax bill and because of the way that jobs have been created. And so what I'm seeing here and in the past and in some of the requests that he wants, I'm going to talk on President Trump's desire for a military parade in just a minute. But what I'm seeing is they're already spending money that they have no idea how much we're actually going to be making, and it's always going to be borrowed money. It's always going to be borrowed against the American people. And as a conservative should always be a fiscal conservative. That's our platform. That is a platform that we should always be running on and erring on the side of. Less government spending. The government does not need to be spending as much money as it is right now. And cutting back on what we're already spending on. Don't increase and add to the deficit unless you're going to erase some of the things that are being regularly taken out. And that usually means being the bearer of bad news, the harsh reality. And the harsh reality is, in order for us to start dwindling down the deficit and actually start to where we can start working down the debt that we've already accumulated and not just continue a deficit, which means that we're going to be adding on to that debt because we're spending more than we're taking in, we need to start drawing back and rewriting things for welfare, for Medicare, for Medicaid, and for Social Security. Obviously, the conservative standpoint on these things is these things should be left up to the individual, more money in their pocket, so that way we don't have to, the government doesn't have to fund it. The government doesn't have to pay for your retirement. You should save on your own. And these things are broken. And for one reason or another, the consensus on both sides, this is a bipartisan agreement that for one reason or another, the agreement has always been it's broken, but we're going to address that it's broken, but we're just going to throw more money at it and hope that it fixes. And that's not the way that it's going to work. It's not going to fix unless there is somebody that is going to be the bearer of bad news. Might take a hit on your approval ratings, but you're going to start dwindling down the deficit so we can start tackling down the debt. We had a plan not too long ago, and all we're saying is just for it. The funding is already over for that, and now we're trying to do something a little bit more permanent-ish that is going to be for the next 2 years of funding, but within the next decade, we would have already added another $1.5 trillion to the debt. And that's not something that any fiscal conservative should be erring on the side of. Not somebody who is actually in favor of financial responsibility when it comes to the government and its spending. So moving on, Justin Trudeau acted like a complete idiot earlier this week when he was receiving questions from a woman. And the gendered language is what triggered, if you will, his response. So she was asking about motherhood and the air of motherhood and how it can heal and help humankind. Oh, I'm sorry, not humankind, mankind. And he actually interrupts her and corrects her to peoplekind. And I'm looking at the New York Times, and right now Justin Trudeau regrets people kind. He said that I made a dumb joke. In essence, uh, on Wednesday, after the video footage of the exchange spurred accusations of sexism, then Trudeau told reporters that he made a dumb joke. Quote, you all know that I don't necessarily have the best of track records on jokes. Quote, well, it's because that no people can tell what you're actually joking about. Like, were you joking whenever you said that a bill that is going to punish people and fine people and even imprison people for using the wrong gender pronouns in Canada? Like, was that a joke and some people just took it too seriously? I sure hope so. But apparently it's not. So Justin Trudeau is absolutely, just for those 2 points, you have to see what it actually is. It's an attack on logic. It's illogical. It's illogical to try to stop somebody from saying mankind. You know, whether he actually believes that it was a joke or whether he actually meant it as a joke or not, it's a joke at his own expense either way, because he is somebody that would actually advocate for this kind of corrective speech. And so it's just that was my comedic relief of the week as I'm going through my news feed, that that Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, corrected a woman, mansplained to a woman. I'll use a buzzword that they like to use. He mansplained that she should not say mankind, people kind. You know, as if man doesn't come from humanus, from homo, from original Latin, which is the root of the word human. Not that, you know, we are all men, but, you know, his prime ministership is the joke. I don't think that was the joke. I don't think him saying people kind was a joke. Anyway, so Nancy Pelosi on the floor giving an 8-hour speech. So interesting, isn't it? It's so interesting that she was able to stand there. You know, the media is absolutely, you know, loving the fact that she was able to do so. Such stamina, without water, without using the restroom, without breaking. She managed to stay on her feet for 8 hours when she couldn't stand for 5 seconds to cheer for some of the, I believed, were bipartisan points of President Trump's State of the Union address. And even that, you're going to stand. There are so many issues, and we can agree. We can agree that there are so many issues with the way that America is today. There are things that need to be fixed. We can disagree on which ones and how to fix them, but everybody can agree that there are issues that need to be fixed. But the one that she is fixated on for 8 hours is illegal immigrants, and not even trying to stop illegal immigration. It was all about illegal immigration. It was thanking the parents of DACA recipients for coming here illegally and dragging your kids along, thus burdening the American people with having to create a DACA deal, muddying the lines between what is a illegal immigrant and what is a dreamer, and should they be treated differently. And so the question is, you know, Nancy Pelosi and other House Democrats, if you can stand and speak for 8 hours and lull the person behind you asleep, because she was nodding off. Everybody knows she was nodding off. It's hilarious to see whenever you try to sit through the whole thing, you know, somewhere around the 4-hour mark, you see the woman behind her start to nod off, and it's amazing. But it's amazing. It's amazingly ironic, and it's horrible actually to think that they were able to do this. She was applauded. You know, she's touted as a hero for breaking the record for the longest speech, but over illegal immigration. And not how can we fix it, but how we can be more kind, more understanding, more accepting of illegal immigrants. And I think that's I don't think that's the way to go. Okay? We need to deal with illegal immigration. According to the Federation for American Immigration Reform, or FAIR, for the cost of illegal immigration to the United States, at the federal, state, and local level, taxpayers shell out approximately $134.9 billion to cover the costs incurred by the presence of more than 12.5 million illegal aliens and about 4.2 million citizen children of illegal aliens. That amounts to a tax burden of approximately 8,075 per illegal alien family member, and a total of 115,894,597,664 dollars. If you want to add the cents in there, you can add the cents in. There's something random like 47 cents. The total cost of illegal immigration to U.S. taxpayers is both staggering and crippling. In 2013, FAIR estimated the total cost of illegal immigration to be approximately $113 billion. So in under 4 years, the cost has risen nearly $3 billion. This is a disturbing and unsustainable trend. The sections below will break down and further explain. Yada yada yada. That's on that link. That source will be inside the description, so you can go through and take a look at it. There's a burden on the American taxpayer. There's a burden on the American taxpayer, and being a fiscal conservative, as I said earlier about this budget deal, I don't like when things that can be changed aren't changed, and those changes would help with the deficit, would help with the debt. It's amazing to me to understand, or to try to think about, the standpoint on we're in a debt crisis. We have, we're trying to get people off of welfare. We're trying to get people off of government assistance. And so you want to bring in people that understand, and this is actually something that's agreed upon on both sides, that the people that are coming here are not exactly financially stable. They're coming to a new country. It would be there. What kind of pushback do you think would happen if we said, okay, all DACA recipients, under absolutely no circumstances are you allowed to use in any way, shape, or form any kind of government assistance or any illegal immigrant? Well, we already have that law. Wow. It's amazing how illegal immigration actually does not care about the laws that we have. That's the first thing. Well, legally, illegal immigrants aren't allowed to use government assistance, and they do pay taxes. You want to check? If you can show me the stats that shows that there are none, and I will find the source for how much. Again, I'll put the Federation for American Immigration Reform inside the description, and also a source for how much of the government assistance do illegal immigrants use. According to this, federal cost for illegal immigrants 45 billion, state and local cost 88 billion, total national cost 134 billion dollars. So this is an issue that needs to be fixed. It's an issue that needs to be fixed. And what I find interesting is she could have been there, and she could have been talking and rallying up their base by pointing the finger at the Republicans, at the House majority, at President Trump, and say, you are standing on the side of fiscal responsibility, and yet you are doing so much more, adding to the debt. But that's not where they're planting the heel. They talked about that. They talked about that for a while, but only for a little bit. And then they dug their heels in and settled on illegal immigration. It's funny how quick they are to say that they want a reform to illegal immigration, but they also want to help the immigrants that are here. Okay. I believe there was a proposal not too long ago. My attention span is not that bad to where I can remember that there was a proposal to give amnesty to 3 times the amount of illegal immigrants that the Obama administration did, and that was even asked for. Now all you had to do was just give a bit of money for the border wall, or give some money to the border wall, stop chain migration, and stop the visa lottery system. All you have to do is say that we're going to stop more from coming in. We're going to stop more from coming in and deal with the ones that are here. But they didn't want that. And Kennedy was saying to them, you are the dreamers. You will not be forgotten. We will fight for you. But they won't fight for you unless that means that we can also have open borders. If the deal is to give amnesty to you and your families, but it also means a wall and increased border security, they're not going to jump on it. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Let's see. What else? So, President Trump, he wants a parade. I love the military. I love the military, absolutely. From a fiscal conservative point of view, I do not think that this is the right call. It's not. It's fiscally irresponsible. It's money that does not need to be spent. That is the talking point that should be the front and center address from the left, but it's not. It ought to be the be all end all that you should that you should be more fiscally responsible. That's your talking point, isn't it? Fiscal responsibility. That's the whole Democratic. That's the whole Republican way. But that's not. It became ad hominem attacks. A parade is a bad idea because, well, Trump is a bad president. Okay, it's going to remind us of these horrible tyrant dictator regimes. Really? You know, it's not like this hasn't happened before. We have had military parades before. We had one most recently, 1991, with the Gulf War. Let's see. According to CNN, some of the military parades that we have had as of late. Let's see. We had 1991 after the Gulf War, the Kennedy inauguration. We also had it there after World War II. Let's see, 1942 and 1946 after the World Wars. 1953 Eisenhower's inauguration, 1961 Kennedy's inauguration, and 1991 the victory of the Gulf War. It's not the first time that this has happened, but that's the standpoint that you want to make. Is because Trump is a bad president. If we give him a parade, it's because he likes it, because it's shiny and he's stroking his own ego, and we're flexing muscle and being a bully again. And all this other horrible rhetoric to try to make it seem like this is the most immoral thing that could ever happen. This has never happened. It's unprecedented, and that's not true. And not only that, they tend to devolve. The left will devolve into not only trying to make these attacks of saying that it's a horrible show of power and might, the likes of which only, dictators do. But now you have people that are going to act on that belief. You have people that are showing that they are interested. If there was a tank inside that parade, they are going to replay history and stand in front of that tank and resist. They're going to resist the president. Is this really what it's come down to? During the your standpoint is getting more and more anti-American. Democratic Party is getting more and more. I don't like the military. I don't like, mom's cooking an apple pie. I don't like the anthem. I don't like In God We Trust. I don't like standing up and cheering for, amazing advances in the unemployment for African Americans and Hispanics, and not even standing to give solidarity to men and women in uniform and military, or the victims of MS-13 members. But you're willing to stand, again, I'll bring it back. You're willing to stand for 8 hours for illegal immigration. That is your party platform now. We are the party of illegal immigration. And just have that translated in Spanish. I know I'm Hispanic, but I can't speak a lick of it. That's on me. Anyway, moving on. I love the parade. I would love the parade if we could do more about spending. That's a luxury that we don't need. It's a luxury that does not need to happen right now, unless there's going to be a provincial agreement that we are going to end this amount of spending that we have not seen, and it just threatens to continue to increase and increase and increase, and it needs to stop. And then finally, the Dow Jones. So the stock market took a hit today. We are down actually a substantial amount at points percentage and points wise. 1,032 points or 4.15%. We still have a lot to play with. Play maybe not being the apt term in regards to how much has actually been added on since Trump took office. But one thing that people need to understand, and again, I've been guilty of this. I'm 23. To be old and wise, you must be young and stupid first. So I believed that the stock market is the ultimate proof of how well a country is doing. But the stock market can rise for bad reasons in the economy and can fall for good reasons in the economy. It's very sporadic. What you test the economy against is home ownership, is wages, how many people are employed, how many people are on welfare, how many people are taking other forms of government assistance, and the overall standard of living. That's how you do it. And the last I checked, that is increasing. That is increasing at a reasonable amount. It's a stronger economy, but the fiscal conservative in me is saying you should stop trying to spend the money before we actually see what kind of money we're going to be making. And then to end everything all today, let's take a look at the Trump approval rating as according to CNN. Let's see. A slim majority of voters, 51%, say that they approve of how Trump is handling the economy, the highest mark on the question since his inauguration. 70% say the U.S. economy is excellent or good, and 75% have positive views of their own personal financial situations. That's actually incredible. Bolstered by a strong economic and quickly shifting numbers on tax reform, President Trump's approval rating is hitting 40%. And then you can Quinnipiac poll on Wednesday. It's amazing how much your approval will go whenever you make changes in the person's everyday life. And you see it, there are more. I would urge you to go and look out for these videos of people that were once completely anti-Trump, completely anti-Republican, but giving them a chance just once, and they see the change in their own life and their own finances. Then now they're saying, okay, you know what? I can see that he's doing a good job. But the only way that you can bring it home that you are doing a good job, President Trump, is that you need to be a full conservative and be fiscally responsible for the government. Keep the government fiscally responsible, cut back on spending that doesn't need to be spent, and make changes. People have already seen you as the bad guy. That can't be helped. I mean, look at the coverage since you've been in office. If you have already been labeled as that bad guy, then take that label and do with it something that no other president has done, which is to address the hardship that is brought on to the U.S. economy by things like welfare, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. If not total eradication of each one of them, absolute reform to where the only people that are getting it are absolutely is for absolute necessity. Make it so hard to get that only if you really, really, really need it are you going to get it. Make it to where there's more pathway for people to use the resources that are around them. If you find yourself in hard times, I think Ben Shapiro makes a great point on this. The first thing you should do is go to your family. And then you go to your church. Then you go to your local government. That's your city. Then you go to your state government. And if you still cannot get the help that you need, then you go to the federal government in the form of welfare. There are programs out there that are meant to help you in whatever situation that you find yourself in. There are plenty of charities that are willing to help you. That's what these charities are for. There is no need to have the government take care of our people when we could be taking care of each other and taking care of ourselves much better than the government can be taking care of us. It's horrible at it. It's raising up the debt, and it's raising prices on a lot of things that we think that we think are reasonable prices now because we don't know any better. So I will be seeing you next week with more happenings in the news. Follow me at Twitter. I will have my Twitter link there inside the description. Give me a subscription if you like my video. Thumbs up or thumbs down, depending on how you felt about it. Give me a comment if you agreed with what I said or if you don't agree with what I said. If you have some feedback for me on how I can make this video better. I want to grow this. Thank you so much for listening. Have a good night.